As we get ready to begin our stroll through Portagrave, we start by watching the sun rise in the east. Although this promises to be a fine day, we will take time out for a storm and gaze on rough water from time to time. Green Point, Portagrave, and the lighthouse. For many years, the beams from this lighthouse and its foghorn have warned fishermen and mariners of the treacherous rocks and shoals that lie beneath. It has often been a welcome sight to many as they pass by on a dark, foggy night. The cook room is peaceful at the moment. Fishermen could take a break and enjoy a boil-up. Slate was once taken from the surrounding cliffs. In fact, remnants can still be seen. In contrast, things can change very quickly. The sea can be a friend to man, but it can also be a fearsome enemy. Huge waves often beat mercilessly along the coastline, causing death and destruction in its wake. Today, the swell from the ocean is causing a raging sea. Today, Sparble Island is covered with foam, as is the breaking rock. Small boats would not venture going through the Dully Fair, which separates Sparble Island from Green Point. The breaking rock in the background causes the sea to mushroom over its top. As we walk uphill from the lighthouse, we stop and look back in awe as Mother Nature continues to pound this point of land sticking pointedly into Conception Bay. On leaving the lighthouse, we follow the path from the lookout as it heads up over the neck. The surrounding hills can truly be called a berry picker's paradise. On these hills, blueberries, marshberries, partridge berries, and cranberries grow in abundance. In late summer and autumn, men, women, and children can be seen picking berries, which will be later made into duffs, jams, and mouth-watering pies. The tiny cove of Ibs Cove was once a haven for fishermen and a beehive of activity. Women and men were busy from morning till night, cleaning, washing, and drying codfish, which would later be sold to local merchants. With the wharf and the breakwater in the foreground, we see the offer island where cod traps would have their leaders fastened. Many cantles of fish were taken from the trap berth. As we cross the cove, we come to the homes of the Layers, Kennedys, and Pettons. Retracing our steps across the cliff path, the launch can be seen. Boats will be built nearby. When finished, a group of men would gather, and with everyone hauling, the boat would be launched into the water. At the junction of the road, you will find the Copper Kettle. Once the home of Hayward and Marion Petton family, it is now a relaxing tea room. Visitors can enjoy a cup of tea and inspect the crafts that are on display. The old peak roof dates back to 1894. School days, school days. It is the old Ibs Cove School, first opened in 1855 by the Church of England. Artist George Noseworthy once used it as a art studio. A fisherman's museum opened in 1970 holds items collected from local families. The third part of the museum complex, the Porterhouse, was built by John Charles Porter in 1906. Men still go to the woods to cut firewood for use during the winter months. Pickeyes, populated mostly by the Pettons and Bishops, boast of a landmark known by the local residents as the Head. It appears to be the shape of a man's head sculptured in the rock. The White Hills. Tales were told that behind these hills ghosts and fairies roamed at night. Spooky, isn't it? Every little piece of land was fenced and used as vegetable gardens. Most fences are long gone, and with them, the fishing stages that once stood on Bishop's Rocks overlooking Blackberry Island, or Pickeyes Island, as was sometimes called. A rock standing along by the side of the old road is locally known as No Denial. Look closely, and on the eastern side of the rock you may see the outline of a Newfoundland map. This natural rock formation has stood the test of time for a possibility of thousands of years. On the western side of this rock is a bench where lovers sat and talked. It was said that when he popped that most important question while sitting on this bench, there would be no denial, hence No Denial Rock. Jackdaw's Mash, where many exciting games of hockey was played. Ibsole versus Ship Cove, Blow-Me-Down versus the Harbour. Children of all ages took part in this healthy and enjoyable winter sport. In summertime, many a game of hide-and-seek was played around the Fox's Rocks, or Altar Rocks. Towering above the small cove of Blow-Me-Down is the Island. Many years ago, a man actually walked up this bare-faced wall of rock. Blow-Me-Down Wharf. Waters are peaceful at the moment. The old woman's apron, so named because of its color and shape, lies at the bottom center of the island at the water's edge. The Collar Point, the beach with its rocks, driftwood, and smooth-colored glass. Here small boys and girls explored the wonders of land and sea. The bank was also called the Tell, or Liar's Bench. On Sunday morning, men would gather to talk about current affairs, who could tell the biggest story, or engage in a friendly argument. Blow-Me-Down Cove, again not so peaceful. This raging sea destroys everything in its wake. Stages, stores, and the wharf are about to be completely washed away. The sea actually reaches the doorstep of this man's house. Rising about 300 feet above sea level, the island overlooks the community of Blow-Me-Down. The Porters moved here from Ibs Cove in the early 1800s. Modern houses and paved roads have changed its appearance somewhat. The older generation can look back and remember when life moved at a much slower pace. In the distance can be seen Shepherd's Hill with Grandmother's Rock. the Cow Fall, and Mount Zion looking down over the Spring Drung. This area is known as Bloomingdale Bight. At one time, all the families living here were Morgans. Along the shore we passed the Growl, so named because of a dispute over a piece of rock. The stages and flakes lined this area until the 1960s. Continuing on, we passed Poxville, London, and England. Modern-day Chumsill, with its paved road, passes by Ogan's Gulch, where a ship once went ashore on its rocks. We take notice to Bloomingdale Ed and Millard, and the many houses that have been built around Poxville and England. Sam's Mash is another place where many a game of hockey was played. Looking from Bull's House Hill, we see Mount Zion, and in the distance Steve's Drunk and Lover's Leap. Looking into the valley below, we see Paulus's Path, Jackie Doby's Hill, and Uncle Noah's Mash. Modern houses occupy the valley today. Ship Cove Pond, nestled between the hills, makes for a picture-perfect setting for summer fun for children of all ages. This young man dives from a diving board at Red Head. We remember years ago when in summertime the water was warm and always inviting. There were no mini bathing suits, but with an old inner tube or a string of cork fishing floats, everyone had a wonderful time. Older children always watched over the younger ones. Anyone not in the mood for swimming would watch those who did swim, and on warm days would probably think of winter when the surface would be frozen and covered with skaters or bobsliders. Most children, however, did enjoy the warm water in summertime and put cold water and skating as far from their minds as possible. Here is a view of Ship Cove taken from the lookout. Dan's Hole and Ship Cove Point was once covered with flakes, upon which codfish were spread and dried to perfection. Those friends are standing on the flake amid drying fish. Red Beach and Ship Cove Point brings back memories of seeing parts from the motor vessel Mary, which went ashore and sank in the late 1920s. Ship Cove Wharf, with its modern fish plant, now occupies the premises once owned by local merchant Harold Andrews. Portagrave Post Office is a regular meeting place in both summer and winter. A local branch of the Bank of Nova Scotia sits just to the west of the post office, with business hours from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Thursdays. The famous skating rock is located beyond St. Luke's School. Many a seat was torn out of their trousers as young boys slid down this rock on their rear ends. Games were also played here. Boys would take turns hitting cans to see who could bat the can farthest up the sloping rock. The War Memorial is dedicated to those who lost their lives in World War I and II. St. Luke's School was built in 1955 and closed in 1990. It was bought by the church and is now St. Luke's Church Hall. Here is St. Luke's Church and Cemetery. The first St. Luke's Church was built in 1826. Looking over the rolling hills, we notice that a road is being built from Tucker's Mash down through Prouse Mash to join the road leading to Greenpoint Lighthouse. Named after the Prouse family who once owned this property, we remember that Judge Prouse was born here. In season, capelin roll on Skanes Beach in abundance. Fresh, salted and dried, they make many a tasty meal. Capelin from this beach were used as fertilizer on potatoes or on grass ground all over the backside. As we look down on Butler's Beach, we notice a small boat setting lobster pots off Butler's Cove and around the Galley Shoe. This is the new road heading east from Tucker's Mash, with Mix Hill in the background overlooking Portagrave Harbour. From Bussey's Hill, we look at the Orange Lodge and take a quick stroll through the houses that now surround Tucker's Mash from Bussey Lane to Prouse's Mash. From atop a hill by the Orange Lodge, we look down over the Bond and stroll westward past Back Cove and the Tomcod Rock. And find our way to William Porter Memorial Playground, which had its construction started in 1971. The United School and Church, which had its beginning in 1873, as it is seen today, serves 25 families. It looks quite different from that of the 1960s. This cow strolled eastward down Bussey's Hill, looking for greener pastures, was a common sight until just a few years ago. A fishing boat is returning through the Narrows after a day's fishing. Soon this entrance to the Portagrave Harbour will be closed and a new entrance will be made at the west end. Portagrave Harbour has been a haven for fishermen for many years. Tradition tells us that even before 1610, when John Guy settled in Cupper's Cove or Cubits, there were people living in Portagrave and using this harbour for hauling up their boats and the beaches for drying their fish. Today we have a beautiful calm harbour as we daydream while looking to the east through the harbour entrance. As As we look towards the northeast end of the harbour, we see Dawes Hill and Kelligrews Hill, which offers protection to the harbour from the cold easterly winds. The premises of George Daw and Sons, where once a booming fish business was carried on, now has been decimated in the name of progress. A breakwater now connects P Island and the Harbour Island to protect the fishing boats from the raging seas. Many people can still remember rowing out to pick peas from those islands. Flakes and stages were once built here for curing salted cod. As we go around the harbour, a combination of old and new can be seen. Old stages and modern fishing boats. Boats of all sizes from 18 feet to 65 feet can be found. Upon completion of the harbour development project, Portagrave will be able to boast of one of the most modern and safe harbours in the province. It is the 69th Harbour Authority to go into operation in Newfoundland and Labrador. Those older clippings show Portagrave Harbour as it was yesteryear. Notice the difference in the sizes of the boats that were anchored during our earlier stroll through the harbour. It's hard to believe that this is the same water that looked so peaceful and serene just a few short moments ago. During winter months, it was not unusual for heavy seas to visit the Portagrave Peninsula. Often it would break over the breakwater and pound anything in its path. Would you want to be aboard this boat right now? Here in Ozzy's Cove, where the new entrance to the Portagrave Harbour is going to be, can also boast of rough water in its own right. Although the wind is calm, it is not unusual for rough seas to wash this stage from top to bottom. With crab fishing gear in the foreground, we see Jailhouse Mountain in the distance. The one-cell stone jailhouse and the magistrate's office has been gone since about 1901, and we can only wonder how many men walked by this mountain and for what crimes did they pay. The L&M takeout was begun in 1982 and has continued to serve Portagrave and visitors alike with tasty home-cooked meals. Looking back over the route we have already come, we continue into Sandy Cove, once the home of the Mugfords and Ralphs. Off Sandy Cove Point, we watched a boat checking its lobster pots. In the early 1960s, the roads over Appy Jack's Hill was not paved as it is today. And where the modern houses of today now stand, there were only vegetable gardens. The new Pentecostal Tabernacle and adjoining school was opened in 1987. Dawes Welding Shop takes care of the fishermen's many needs, from crab pots to stabilizers. Bearneen has been the home of the Battens and Boones for many years. Battens Point stands proud to the east side of this cove and helps to shelter a fish plant that was formerly known as Skipper Jim's. It has its own wharf in addition to the government wharf. As we leave the fish plant and past Moore's Point, we continue on to the St. Mark's Anglican Church. The old schoolhouse next door is still used for small functions and houses many memories for the many students that have passed through its doors. The Portagrave Peninsula as seen from the top of Dock Mountain. The home of Lewis Roberts and Lady L is a privately owned tourist information and craft shop with personally designed electronic creations. Here is the dock road looking towards Short Beach. Standing at the junction of the road is the old United Church. Standing on Short Beach, we again gaze back longingly towards the Arbor Hills, Forster's Hill, and the Bearneen Road. Our eyes continue past the Bearneen Road to Black Duck Pond Road, high above Black Duck Pond. As we leave this road heading towards Bay Roberts, we look back at the welcome sign to the Portagrave Peninsula. On the road towards Clark's Beach, we pass by Dock Mountain and its Dock Mountain craft store. By the red rails, we take notice again to the narrow dirt roads of the 1960s and compare it with the wider paved two-lane road of today. We say goodbye to the Portagrave Peninsula, knowing that we will return as soon as we can and stay as long as possible. To many of us, Portagrave was, is, and always will be home.